Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Monday, July 11th, around 10 p.m. Mountain Time 2022. The James Webb photos are in, and, well, science has some splaining to do. As record numbers of people worldwide are moving towards starvation. But the big story, extended weather forecast for mid-July doesn't look like mid-July. Keep calm. People are starving. July is typically the hottest part of the summer in Michigan and, well, elsewhere in the U.S. But the actual weather pattern doesn't look always match July. Take a look at this. This is the 6 to 10-day temperature outlook, and it's showing like below normal temperatures for the Northeast, which was burning up last year at this time. Above high temperatures, but also, let's look at the precipitation. Take a look at this. Above normal for lots of the continent here. And this is just not a typical July pattern where we're going to get half of the U.S. saturated in rain and, well, below normal temperatures for half of the continent. Take a look at the 8 to 14 day. It's going to be chilly in Philly. And that's a fact, Jack. Now, farmers are recovering after a derecho flattened some South Dakota cornfields. It's like insult after injury after insult. And there have been some EF2 tornadoes in the Goshen area as well, and more devastating hail in South Dakota. Derecho, as storms include 4-inch hail at Timber Lake. And they're just showing some of that green footage. And here's huge hail pummeling parts of southeast Wyoming and the Nebraska panhandle, over 4 inches. In fact, 4.3 inches, and that hailstone fell in an open range 20 miles north of Merill, or 10 miles southwest of Agate Fossil Beds National Monument. And this was just on Tuesday, which was their lose day. Anyone with crops in that area obviously destroyed. The same region produced the largest hailstone ever recorded in Illinois in Minooka, and this was just in 2015. So hail is increasing in Nebraska and Illinois in this region. I'm just saying. Relatively disastrous hailstorm shreds East Yellowstone crops as well. According to the Billings Gazette, when retired farmer Leroy Gabel heard hail pelting his house on Tuesday morning, his first thought was, oh, damn. Gabel leaped from his bed to check his windows. It was 2:30 a.m., so there wasn't much to see, but he spotted the telltale wind and pellets of ice. There wasn't much to do but hope it didn't break through his house. And when the sun rose, visibility rose with it. He and his son Greg surveyed their 1.5-mile field of crops. Across the farm, stalks were bent and broken. The marble and pea-sized hail had torn leaves from stems, and kernels were beaten or knocked from their heads. Well, that's about as deep as we have to get there. Total destruction. Now, unusual rainbow cloud sighted above Ukamahami in Maui. Now, let's take a look at this and just recover from the crop loss. This is a very unique situation that's setting up in the upper atmosphere where cirrus clouds form, and this is a rainbow cloud where each strip of cloud itself had its own color. Take a look at that. A yellow strip, a green, a blue, and a purple, and a red. Absolutely mind-blowing. So for the people in Hawaii, they got to see this fantastic sight. And all the links for everything we talk about will be below the video. Now, new hurricane season outlook predicts 17 remaining storms could develop in the Atlantic. This is a big season. In addition to Alex, Bonnie, and Colin, another 17 named storms could develop in the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. And, well, there are some storms out there. But the first thing we want to talk about and reiterate is a record number of people worldwide are now moving towards starvation. And it doesn't have anything to do with climate change. It has everything to do with world governments and the reaction to a fake pandemic that they're still pushing. And now we have a new variant of the fake pandemic, and it's almost mind-numbing. It's almost inane when you're now the amount of insane people wearing masks and cleaning everything are reducing, but there is a huge amount of the population, I'm going to say about 30%, that are completely brain damaged. And this is because of governments around the world. So if you think the government is there to protect you, just think of it critically, what I just said. And we'll move on. Dangerous heat in Texas and Utah does not compare to any 1936 numbers, but it's hot nonetheless. And these hot conditions with high temperatures always happen in July. But this one seems to be one of the coolest Julys on record. But they're still claiming everybody's burning up. It's almost embarrassing. But soon the tides are turning. So good news is on the horizon. And some areas are expected to hit triple digits, which is normal in July, over Texas and Utah on Tuesday. But as you can see, an area of disturbed weather is expected to form in the northern Gulf of Mexico in the next few days, and we showed you that. And heavy excessive rainfall is becoming more likely in the midweek to the Gulf Coast. So that's going to be in the Louisiana area, New Orleans, and the Gulf Coast. So heads up for what's developing as far as Atlantic cyclones. And they're talking about disturbance number one with just a 10% chance of cyclone formation in 40 hours, but a 30% in 5 days. It's going to move around here and just fumble around here, bringing heavy rain to the region. Now, what is interesting is Darby. Hurricane Darby in the eastern Pacific has gone from tropical storm to now Cat 4 storm, and it's moving towards Hawaii. Now, the spaghetti models are changing every hour, and my last run about 4 hours ago had a model bringing it up and hitting the Big Island, but most of them are keeping it south of the island. Now, that doesn't mean that there is not a threat. If this comes in, it's Cat 4 here as Cat 4 or 5 in this region. The tropical storm force winds are going to be huge around here, so it will affect the Big Island. So this is days out. Boom, 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 boom. So we're going to keep a close eye on Darby because, well, I know the only person I know named Darby, well, is certainly a whirlwind. So let's keep a close eye on Hurricane Darby in the Eastern Pacific. Now, seismic update. We've had an uptick in seismicity due to space weather. Some pretty big, the biggest quakes in weeks kicking off, 6 magnitude in Vanuatu, some 5.7 magnitude activity in Tonga. And so we'll keep a close eye on this as space weather is increasing. Now here we are at Iceland off the Reykjanes Peninsula on the Reykjanes Ridge. You can see that feature right here. And I believe there is a subsurface volcano here, definitely erupting. It continues with seismicity off the point here. We have some activity down here by, I think this is Hekla. Astja continues to rumble, and we'll go up there and take a look at it. There's some new activity right there. Boom. But the Reykjanes Peninsula is continuing to rumble as seismicity is increasing. There is the largest earthquake happening down here as we have movement all over that continent. It's pretty amazing. Here is Astja and the uplift since, well, maybe the last 2 years. And we could see that with the most current data point, about the 10th of July, that there has been 150 centimeter uplift just this year. And the last 150 centimeter uplift brings us back to September. So there has been 300 millimeter uplift since September of last year, which is about a year. 300 millimeters, 30 centimeters. And, well, that's about a third of a meter. Now, you can see the major uptick starting in September in placing the magma, and it's kind of leveled off, but it seems like it's another jump happening now. So Astja might be poised to erupt soon, and that's a boom. You're the first to hear it. Now, here we are over at the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, where they monitor all the Pacific Northwest volcanoes that will begin erupting anytime soon. Now, here are the eruptions in the Cascade Range during the past 4,000 years. And you can see just 200 years ago, a bunch of them were puffing and passing. And St. Helens, we've been monitoring for about 8 years. And this is a big uptick. 4 months ago, the average amount of earthquakes per 30 days was 25. And about 2 months ago, the average earthquakes per 30 days was 27. And here we are this month of July, and 38 earthquakes in the last 30 days. So we've been witnessing an uptick in seismicity at St. Helens that's, well, pretty significant. Rainier has had 14 earthquakes in the last 30 days, which has been pretty average, ongoing. So we want to keep our close eye on St. Helens. And let's take a look at the map, shall we? Let's just bring that in. It's pretty easy. There's Mount Rainier. And St. Helens is south of Mount Rainier. So if you ever climb Mount Rainier, you're going to have an opportunity to have an amazing view of Mount St. Helens. And here we are over at St. Helens. And we can just see just 2 quakes in the last 2 days. No quakes recently, but the yellow quakes are the last 2 weeks. So this is a pretty high number at the caldera here. And we will continue to monitor the Pacific Northwest until it becomes pertinent to issue a warning. Now, the tsunami. Surumi? Well, it's a tsunami, indeed. Surumi volcano in Kyushu Island in Japan. Volcanic seismic unrest alert status was raised to yellow a day ago. And the activity at Granadake lava dome has been increasing since late last week. Now, this is terrible news. This is a big eruptive lava dome in Japan with the last known eruption in 867. Now, the historical eruptive history is spectacular. VEI 3 in 867, VEI 4 about 200 BC. So we're right on point for timing for the next VEI 3 or 4 from Yufu Tsudomi. Now, it's weird it's spelt this way because it's close to the water, and if a major eruption happened here, it would in fact trigger a tsunami. So Yufu Tsurumi equals Yufuck tsunami, in my opinion. So we'll keep a close eye on that for you. Space Weather News Update. Here we are, and, well, the Earth has been picking up a little, but we're expecting the major uptick from 7:15 to 7:20. And this is based on our 34-day cycle of the sun in this cycle. Some people are claiming a 5.6 or 9-month cycle, but that's not what the data shows. And in fact, let me show you the data. So the first chart we're going to look at is the daily solar wind at SOHO or Discover. And that's all this information is available at solin.info. And if you can see here quite easily, for the last year or so, you could see these spikes happening. These are monthly spikes. If you break it down, it's about a 35-day spike. And if we average it using machine learning, it's a 35-day spike, even though there's some gaps. So if we just take it out till now, as far as solar wind speed, and we saw the last spike here, and that was about 627. And the last spike, let's come to any one of these. $530. So there's 30 days between spikes. And we're now down low. We're about to spike up again. This week, it's happening now. If we go over to the 2 milli electron volts or mega electron volts, I'm not sure what that is. But it's the electron fluence graph here. And it's pretty similar, which is the same time frame and kind of smooths out those cycles. So about every month there's a peak here, Sometimes there's a lull. But after the lull that we've had here at this distance, see, when we have a lull, there's going to be a spike. So the next 4 or 5 days, we'll see some major output from the sun, and it's beginning to pick up now. We have some aurora potential up in Canada, but that's because of a little perturbation in the magnetometer earlier today. And, well, it seems like the sun has ramped up about midday 2 days ago up into the C range, and a bunch of M flares have kicked off from multiple spots. It's not from one region. This is the most dangerous looking region here, 3055, but it is in fact not kicking off many of the big M flares. 3056 has kicked off an M flare, 57, and then the departing spots as well. But the magnetic separation here, see how there's a straight line between blue and red? Not a good flare maker. Here again, blue and red, positive and negative, completely split. Now, the interesting thing here, and you're going to learn something about the sun right now, is here's the equator. And we're approaching solar max, or we are at solar max, basically, for the next now till 2 years from now. 3055 has positive to the right, negative to the left. And above the equator, positive to the left, negative to the right. Similar thing happens on Earth. When you flush the toilet, it spins one way in the northern hemisphere and the opposite way in the southern hemisphere. Wow. I'm glad you tuned in for that tidbit. But we're now experiencing an M flare as we speak. So stay tuned for more booms. Now the first full-color James Webb Space Telescope photo is here. And we're not queer, but the photo certainly is. Look at this galaxy that is warped, and another warped galaxy here, while there's other galaxies that are completely normal. And maybe other stars. Take a look at the stars on a string in a line. But these warped galaxies are totally bizarre. So, and now we're looking at the beginning of the Big Bang. So we're looking so far out that we can see at that time when the universe began. And you know what's out here? Tons of stuff that takes way more time than that to even form. So, the standard model of cosmology is not only completely wrong 99% of the time, but with these photographs, 30 billion light years away that we're looking at, they're older than the universe. So what gives? Science is broken. Now, a comet heading towards Earth may strike the moon, according to some sources. And we're going to look a little deeper into this, and we'll cover it in a podcast over at Magnetic Reversal News soon, because it's supposed to hit the moon, I think, in 3 days. Holy sh! Read the article, link below. Now, a passing star shifting Neptune's orbit could also wreck our solar system completely and suck Neptune out. And, well, one thing leads to the other, and you discover the Thunderbolts Project, where this has happened in the past, and planets have moved in close proximity to each other, and it wreaked havoc on our solar system and humanity. I'm just saying. Now, this is extremely disturbing, and we'll finish up tonight on this topic. Glyphosate. When I became an activist, it was because of glyphosate. And when I learned about what they were doing a decade ago, actually it was 15 years ago, I dove in. And what I found was the revolving door in the federal government and federal agencies like the Food and Drug Administration and the EPA. This revolving door moves a CEA from one federal group like the Environmental Protection Agency back into the U.S. government in the federal capacity and back into the regulatory group like the EPA or the FDA. Now, the problem with this is, well, there's a lot of problems with it. Now, the reason we don't have judges or lawyers work on cases where there's a conflict of interest is because there's a conflict of interest. And in this case, if you were just the head of the EPA and then you worked in the federal government as, like, say, the Environmental Protection Agency czar, and then you went back to the EPA, how many millions of dollars in backroom deals would you have pocketed? That's my question. Well, a lot, and it's been going on for decades. And since the release of GMOs heavily in the early 1990s, we have celiac disease and autism and all kind of inflammatory diseases exploding. And they want to blame it on cheap food. But it is the cheap food, but it's not the cheap food itself. It's the glyphosate residue in the cheap food. Hello? The March Against Monsanto was all about educating the public on the fact that genetically modified organisms change gut bacteria. They change your gut genome, and they start replicating pesticide in your stomach, which then flows through your intestine. That can't be good for your immune system, and it isn't, which is why we have an increase in celiac disease, allergies, autism, and on and on. I can't even begin. I'm just touching the surface. But the reason is glyphosate is in everything that's cheap to eat in the supermarket, which is why I implore you to grow your own food and get out of that loop and heal your body, your soul, and your mind. Now, the CDC itself, its study finds glyphosate, the controversial ingredient found in weed killers, including Roundup, which claimed and lost billions in a lawsuit, but still exists on the market, the number one used pesticide in the world. All big ag uses it. In fact, there are genetically modified crops to resist Roundup. So it kills all other weeds but the food you eat. So how good could that food be? Well, it in fact is killing you. More than 80% of urine samples drawn from children and adults in a U.S. health study contained glyphosate, a chemical linked to cancer. And it's disgusting. Now, the report, and we'll look at that, by unit of the Centers for Disease Control. This is coming from the CDC itself. How could it be? They're part of the revolving door. So someone has integrity there. It found that out of 2,310 urine samples taken from a group of Americans intended to be representative of everybody, 1,885 were laced with detectable traces of glyphosate, a cancer-causing chemical that Bayer and Monsanto created, and the food you eat is resistant to, and it's in every box and bag in the supermarket. And the problem with that is that it's also in every conveyor belt and every manufacturing facility where food is created in the entire world. Which means everything that's created that you eat, even in the organic realm, is tainted with glyphosate. And I don't have the study up here, but I just read it last week. Even natural grocers, all the products, all the produce have glyphosate residue. Thanks, Monsanto. Thanks, Bayer. Fuck you. And here's the paper that we will link you, which is unimportant. What's important is the boom. And I just laid it down. Did you pick it up? The government doesn't care about you. They care about backroom deals with Bayer and Monsanto that have completely contaminated the food supply forever. And now we can't even get food. And the food that you get is food for sheep, completely toxified. Well, it's not even good for farm animals. That's the world you live in. It's time for a reset. You better wake up now. If you're not growing your own food, you're eating this poison. And that is why you're sick. Hello? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Share this with like-minded people and wake the fuck up.